fill in the blank time. Patrick Mahomes clapping back at Tom Brady is what, Charean?
I'm going to go with brazen, Mike, because I do think it's brazen, even in a joking manner, because we know Tom Brady never forgets anything, and he will bring that up at some point. I guarantee you this year he's going to bring that up, what Patrick Mahomes tweeted. So it may be all in fun, but Brady never forgets. He's got a long memory, Mike.
It is dangerous. It really is. Somebody pointed out to me yesterday in the aftermath of our discussions about Trevor Lawrence and the fact that he doesn't have a chip on his shoulder. The reality is nothing's happened to him to have a chip on his shoulder yet, and maybe he'll get one. In that Tom versus Time Facebook Live series from a few years ago, there was a point where Brady said, if you want to come get me, you're going to have to be willing to devote your life to it because I have. And even though it's impossible for him to devote more of his life to it, yes, he will find a way to make it as impossible as it can be for Patrick Mahomes to catch him. And that means getting to number 8, maybe getting to number 9 before he walks away for good. All right, the draft rumor/report out there that might have legs is what, Charean?
Well, I think I'm going to go with New England trading up to take a quarterback. Bill Belichick has never drafted a quarterback in the top 60, and I know people have pointed that, but hey, until this year, he never spent a ton of money in free agency either, and he did that, right? He wants to create a winner, a long-time winner, prove he can do it without Tom Brady. The best way to do that is to find a quarterback. They don't have that guy on their roster, Mike, to do what Tom Brady did over a lengthy period of time, 20 years. Or more. And so I think we could see a trade up for him to draft a quarterback, perhaps with the Carolina Panthers at number 8, although we also know that the Panthers may want a quarterback too, even though they have Sam Darnold. I doubt they do, but that might be a prime position for the Patriots to move up to number 8 overall and give up some draft capital to go up and get the guy who can be the next Tom Brady, frankly.
My gut feeling continues to be that Bill Belichick loves Cam Newton and wants to see how far Newton can take the team and would rather use that draft capital on guys who can win now. They're in a definite win now mode, not draft a guy and put him on ice for a year or so and wait and see what happens. But we'll see. Hey, Belichick is not going to tell us ahead of time what he's going to do. That's for damn sure. Not that anyone is, but the last one who would is Belichick. I'm going to say the Dolphins trading down from 6. That won't surprise me at all, the way they've danced around the board from 3 down to 12 up to 6. Because I think that whatever receiver, and assuming that the way it goes is no receiver is taken through the first 5 picks, and they have their choice of Jalen Waddle of Alabama, Devontae Smith of Alabama, and Jamar Chase of LSU. If they have an opportunity to slide back and dangle the chance to come up and get a quarterback and stockpile a pick and then get one of those 3 receivers later, let someone else make the decision for you if you don't know which of the ones to take. So they've already got 2 first-round picks. They could slide back. And who knows what they could pick up. But Chris Greer has been a master of working the board to add picks, whether it's through the Laramie Tunsil trade, these other moves we've seen. And I think that of all the stuff that's out there, the Dolphins finding a way to slide back and dangling that pick for someone who can come get a quarterback, that's the one that resonates the most with me, Charean.
Yeah, that's not going to surprise me either, Mike, the way they've moved around already and the way that they like to move around. So, yeah, that would be very possible, especially, as you said, if those 3 receivers are sitting there. And what if Kyle Pitts is there too? They can move back and still get one of those playmakers for that offense and make Tua very, very happy regardless and still pick up some more picks over the next 2 years. This is another team. Young quarterback, young coach, they're not going anywhere for a while. They have time to build this roster, and they're doing that with all the draft picks they're stockpiling.
All right, the Rams, and they have a draft house this year. I guess they needed to build something with Stan Kroenke's money that's nicer than where Sean McVay was last year for the virtual draft. But if you haven't seen it, it looks pretty nice. Charean, the Rams Malibu draft house is what?
Well, it's the first of many sponsorships I think that we're going to see. Rocket Mortgage is the one that's sponsoring this, right? So we're going to hear all about Rocket Mortgage every time the Rams pick a player. They've sponsored this house. But I think it's a challenge to Cliff Kingsbury. Come up with something better, although I still like Cliff's. It's awfully good, and Jerry out on the yacht was pretty good too, Mike.
SoFi is a personal finance company, so it doesn't really conflict with Rocket Mortgage. That was my first thing. You're talking about entities that like to loan money. You may get one of your sponsors upset about the Malibu Draft House sponsored by Rocket Mortgage, but SoFi, different enough that won't be an issue. Hey, I say it's going to be empty the first night because they don't have a first-round pick. What do they need a draft house
right.
for? I guess they just need a place to hang out and watch the draft for the first night because they don't have anything to do. There's no way in hell they're trading into round one. They just sit back and you don't even have to watch it. Just tell us the 32 guys that we're taking and we'll plan our board for the next day. So they're going to hang out, probably have a few beers, and enjoy the draft on a giant TV sponsored by Rocket Mortgage. All right, the NFL equivalent of this European Super Soccer League, which apparently is dead before it even got off the ground. The NFL equivalent of it is what, Charean?
Well, it's been a PR disaster, so it's the Houston Texans, right? Because they're a PR disaster. Everything has kind of fallen apart over the last year. So I was ready to say the NFC West, and then when this thing started falling apart, I was like, man, this sounds just like the Houston Texans, the way their year's gone.
They could have hired Jack Easterby to be the commissioner of the Super League. Probably would have been the best news for the Houston Texans in a long time. Yeah, I think the NFL equivalent is there isn't one because the NFL already is an American league. It's not like we're gathering up teams from different countries. But as I wrote today, and I mentioned this yesterday on Rich Eisen's show, if the broadcast antitrust exemption ever goes away and teams cut their own TV deals, Charean, the Cowboys, if they're cutting their own deal, and other teams that I don't need to name, teams not nearly as popular as the Cowboys are cutting their own TV deals, the disparity in revenue and the willingness of teams to share that revenue, that could set the stage for a fracturing of the NFL. It would take something like that could split the NFL into the ultra-popular national teams. And maybe you could, do a relegation thing based upon value of TV contract. I don't know, but it would be something like that before it could happen. But there definitely are disparities between the best and the worst teams in the NFL, the most popular teams and the least popular teams in the NFL. And if that ever got exploited financially, that is when the NFL would have a potential problem holding it all together.
Yeah, and Mike, when you look at the NFC East, that's another thing you could have thrown in here about being the Super League. If you're talking about money, it would be the NFC East, right? 4 of the top 9 teams in the Forbes list are from the NFC East. I mean, those teams make mega money. There's a reason when the Cowboys joined the NFL in 1959 actually, 1960 was their first year, but when they joined into the NFL as an expansion team, they wanted to play in the NFC East, and they held it up until they got their way to play in the NFC East. And that was the reason why, because they have all those big markets that they play twice a year, Mike.
And look, as rich people make more and more money, those of us who aren't billionaires can't really understand this. But the thing that makes you a billionaire makes you keep pushing for more. You don't just pull the plug one day and say, I'm just going to go do nothing for the rest of my life. You keep pushing and pushing and pushing. That's where this Super League came from. More ways to generate revenue, more ways to make more money, more ways to get more. And as gambling pumps more money into the sport, and it's raw greed, capitalism greed. It's the same thing. It's just different numbers of letters in the word, and it pushes for more and more and more. And that sharing of TV revenue, I think, has always been more tenuous than they would let on. If that would ever pop, that's the thing that could blow the league apart. The teams would still exist. They would just be in different universes, different worlds, and different stratospheres of how much money they make.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.